Okay, in the last chapter, Roz had just saved Thorn from falling off the cliff, if you remember. This is called the parade. Does it hurt? Brightbill touched the smooth surface where his mother's foot used to be. No, it does not hurt, said Roz, but it will be difficult for me to walk. The bears huddled behind the gosling and stared at the robot's stump of a leg. Nobody understood how a foot could pop off like that, or how Roz could remain calm. "Roz, I'm sorry my cubs attacked you," said Mother Bear. "Sometimes they're completely out of control." "I can't thank you enough for saving Thorn. I promise my cubs will never bother you again. Isn't that right?" "Yes, Mother," said Nettle and Thorn together. The robot tried to walk. She bobbed up and down on her uneven legs, which worked well enough on the flat surface of the hilltop. But once she entered the forest, her problem became clear. The smooth stump had no grip, and it slipped along the forest floor. So Roz tried hopping on one good foot. She took a few crunching hops, and then clanged into a tree trunk. A few more hops, and she crashed into the undergrowth. "I'm really sorry I broke your foot off," said Thorn as he helped the robot through the weeds. "I forgive you," said Roz. Whether she was capable of true forgiveness is anybody's guess, but they were nice words, and Thorn felt better when he heard them. "It looks like I will have to crawl home," said Roz. "Nonsense," said Mother Bear. "I have a better idea." Mother Bear lay flat on the ground while her cubs boosted Roz onto her back. Then Brightbill fluttered onto the bear's broad shoulders, and when they were both safely aboard, the group set off through the forest. The robot was heavy, but she was no trouble for a giant animal. Mother Bear strolled along as if it were perfectly normal for a robot to be riding on her back. They made quite a grand procession, all walking together like that. And the procession became even grander as deer and raccoons and birds and all other kinds of animals joined in. Everyone wanted to see the mother robot riding the mother bear. The group wound its way past ancient trees, over rolling meadows, and through babbling streams, collecting more and more curious animals as they went. It was the grandest parade of wildlife anyone had ever seen, and leading the way was our robot Roz. But the parade couldn't last forever, and as the sun went down, the other animals began drifting away one by one, and when the parade finally arrived at the nest, only the original members remained. "Here we are," said Mother Bear, helping Roz down into the garden. "Now wasn't that better than crawling your way home?" "Oh, yes, that was wonderful," said the robot. "I cannot imagine a better ending to this day. Thank you very much." "Yeah, that was amazing," squeaked the gosling. "My friends won't believe me when I tell them I rode across the island on the back of a bear." "Well, I'm glad you enjoyed yourselves," Mother Bear smiled. "It's the least I could do after all the trouble these two caused." Her smile became a frown, and she glared at her cubs, who suddenly took great interest in a pebble on the ground. It was late, and it had been a long, difficult day for everyone, so the bears said good-bye and headed back to their cave. Brightbill and Roz stood in the garden and watched their new friends lumber away, and then the gosling said, "Mama, do you think you'll ever walk again?" "I am not sure," said the robot, "but I know who to ask for help. Now go get ready for bed." Chapter 48, The New Foot. Mr. Beaver squinted at Roz's stump. "I've never built a foot before." He stroked his whiskers and muttered to himself. "There are really three problems to solve. The foot needs to grip the ground, needs to be durable, and then there's the issue of fixing it to the leg. I might have to consult a few friends." "Will she ever walk again?" said Brightbill. "What's that?" Mr. Beaver was lost in thought. "Oh, not to worry. You just sit back and leave everything to me. I love a challenge." Mr. Beaver plunked into the pond and returned a while later, rolling a large section of the tree trunk. "Say hello to your new foot," he said, slapping the wood with his tail. "Hello, new foot," said the robot. "That's the spirit. This beauty is from one of the hardest trees I ever chewed. Just need to make a few modifications." Mr. Beaver placed the piece of wood next to Roz. He squinted, repositioned the piece, and squinted some more. With his claws he marked different spots on the wood, and then he put his big chompers to work. The beaver chewed and gnawed and carved up that piece of wood, turning it over and over in his paws. Chit-Chat looked down from a branch and chattered through the quiet moments. "This reminds me of the time I saw a fox catch a lizard by the tail. Somehow the lizard's tail fell off, and he got away, and later I saw that the wizard had a new tail, and now Roz is going to get a new foot, and everything will be fine." The wooden foot took shape, and before long Mr. Beaver was standing beside a beautiful carving that resembled a boot. He tried to slide it over Roz's stump, but the opening was too small, so he scraped out more of the wood until it was a perfect fit. "Very good," he said, spitting out a wood chip. "My friend should be arriving any minute with the next few things I need. Then, oh, there they are now. I'd like you all to meet Bumpkin, Lumpkin, and Rumpkin, but I call 'em the Fuzzy Bandits." 3 fat raccoons shuffled into the garden, dragging a tangle of vines behind them. "Good-day," said Bumpkin. "Good-day," said Lumpkin. "Good-day," said Rumpkin. You might already know this, reader, but raccoons have very nimble hands, and the Fuzzy Bandits use theirs to skillfully tie those vines around the robot's leg and around her new foot. The vines caught nicely on all the dings and dents and scrapes, and once they were all tied good and tight, Mr. Beaver threw back his head and hollered, "Trunk Tap! We could use your assistance!" There was silence. Then 3 quick taps echoed from down the forest canopy. "Oh, that'll be him," said Mr. Beaver, smiling. A very handsome woodpecker swooped into the garden. "You called?" came the woodpecker's musical voice. "Indeed I did. Everyone, this is my woodpecking pal, Trunk Tap. Now, Trunky, we need some tree resin, the really sticky stuff. Can you spare us some? Or find it?" "Of course I can," said the woodpecker. "You've got a perfect pine right there." Trunk Tap hopped into a crusty old pine tree and pecked a few holes deep into the bark. Thick, syrupy resin began oozing down the trunk. Mr. Beaver scooped up handfuls of the resin and smeared it all over the wooden foot and the vines until everything was glistening with stickiness. And when the resin dried a short time later, Roz's foot was finished. "This is wonderful," said the robot as she strolled around her garden. "I am as good as new." Mr. Beaver and Trunk Tap and Fuzzy Bandits went away feeling pretty happy with themselves. They'd done a very nice thing, but it was the first wooden foot any of them had ever made, and within a week the vines were coming undone and the foot was sliding loose. So they returned, determined to get it right. They found even harder wood and even tougher vines, and they experimented with resin and heating it by the fire, letting it boil and thicken until it became an indestructible glue. They kept tinkering with their design until finally Roz had herself a wooden foot that she could rely on. "Huzzah!" Mr. Beaver rapped his knuckles on the new and improved creation. Hey, that's what they say in Shakespeare's time. "I knew we'd get it right." Roz moved slower than before, and she had a slight limp, but she was back to her old self again, and that was a relief to everyone, especially Bright Bill. There's her new foot. All right, next chapter is The Flyer.